The Legend of Zelda is one of, if not my absolute favorite IP that Nintendo has ever created. Something about the lone hero facing off against insurmountable odds always struck a chord with me. And Link, while being the strongest and most capable fighter in all of Hyrule, is also dumber than a bag of rocks. I mean, Link is an amazing person, God bless his soul, but man can he be thick sometimes. My personal favorite in the series was Majora's Mask. When I was a kid first playing that on the N64, I was blown away that my time travel dreams could come to fruition. I mean, that game was literally a Groundhog Day simulator. Like, that concept blew my mind. And especially if you learn the history behind that. I mean, I think the dude had to like make that game in less than a year, which actually makes a lot of sense. Because it looks like an asset flip of Ocarina of Time. But I digress. When I first heard of Zelda-Tears of the Kingdom, I was a little bit skeptical. Because Breath of the Wild was just such an amazing game. With just the gameplay alone was just absolutely amazing how the environment interacted with itself and the tone of the game. I mean, you actually felt like a lone wandering warrior 100 years after the battle had been lost. But you were still fighting the good fight. The amount of solo stories I had in that game was just absolutely amazing. And just to go off on a little bit of a side tangent, but Yiga clan members can eat a bag of dicks. Alright, they always pop out when you least expect them. And I mean, I've had some crazy run-ins with them. I mean, I remember one time I was trekking across like a frozen wilderness. The heat protectant from my food was wearing off, and I found a little bonfire off in the distance, and I ran to it, and I talked to the guy, and he was like a fortune teller, and he told me my fortune, and he was like, oh yeah, I see blood on the ground, I see blood in the moon, oh, but it's your blood, you're dying tonight. And I'm like, what? And I had to have a fight with this dude while I was freezing, and I had to stay close to the fire so I didn't freeze to death, but also not close enough that I didn't accidentally make the fire go out or burn myself in the process. But just little stories like that, you know, just make the game so amazing. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat things. Tears of the Kingdom has that in spades. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't have the same sort of feeling that Breath of the Wild had. Like I said before, with Breath of the Wild, you literally were alone. I mean, I remember the first time I actually saw an NPC in the game, and I just booked it right towards him because I was literally just so deprived of any sort of direction and interaction with other NPCs in the game, and it actually brought a slight bit of comfort. Tears of the Kingdom definitely doesn't have that problem. It's been a long time since the calamity has happened and Hyrule has started to rebuild. And you can definitely see that with just the vast amounts of people that you meet throughout the game. There's definitely a sense of community. And especially if you go back to places where you actually helped build. Like, for example, if you actually slugged through the absolute monster of a quest line that was Terry Town and actually got that up and running, and you're rewarded by actually seeing it completed. And it's amazing. All different creeds, races, and ethnic groups all living in harmony. It's actually very sweet. I mean, I'm going to go over the story just a little bit here, but I mean, there's really not all that much to go over, to be honest. And that's actually kind of the beauty of a Zelda game in particular. It just kind of sets up the basic premise so that you at least get a flavor of what's going on. And then, yeah, there's more deeper lore that you can dive into, but all you really need to know is just the basics, just to have fun. Basically, the story starts off with Link and Zelda exploring some sort of underground passage under Hyrule's castle, and they find a bunch of Zoni artifacts down there, which essentially was the name of the original inhabitants of Hyrule. You can totally tell that Link wants to lay some mad pipe on Princess Zelda, but you know, she's a little too excited, so the mood definitely is not right. They explore a little bit further, and they accidentally reawaken Ganondorf. Link gets his arm yeeted off, and Zelda gets Thanos snapped out of existence. From there, you wake up on the Sky Temple, and you have to do a lot of shit in order to get down to the surface, which it pretty much serves as the tutorial section, and it actually was pretty fun for the most part. I mean, I actually kind of like Breath of the Wild's approach better. I mean, because yeah, you woke up from the Sheikah bath, and then you immediately got to just mess around in the world and pick up apples and try to fight whatever you found down there. And then you had to unlock, like, you know, the 3 or 4 shrines to get out of the tutorial section. But it was actually pretty cool. And I do admit there is a lot more hand holding this time around. But I will say that that actually is on purpose, because the amount of stuff that you can do in this game is absolutely incredible. Basically, Link gets some sort of powers since his hand got cut off. So when Link was passed out, the original ruler of Hyrule attached his arm onto his, and now he can use his powers, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, you can combine objects together to make absolutely crazy contraptions, and you can even fuse items and other weapons onto your own weapons. One of my favorites is to get a traveler spear and then attach a claymore on top of that, or a pitchfork, and then you have a super long pokey stick that you can kill enemies with. It's absolutely amazing. So to continue on with the story, I mean, all you gotta do is just go to like 4 sections of the map, you know, solve everybody's problems, and then you go and fight Ganondorf. Like, it's really kind of just like the first one, really, but it's just absolutely amazing retreading all of this old ground that's changed just a little bit with the upheaval that's been going on and just how the lands have sort of changed over time. But yeah, the amount of powers that you have in this game is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you can fuse objects onto one another to create amazing structures. You can fuse weapons onto other weapons or items onto weapons, which can get some very interesting combinations. You can use the Ascend ability to shoot up through the roof and pop out the top of any structure, which is absolutely amazing. And I forget I actually have it most of the time, but when I do remember I have it, it blows my mind that you can do that. And then there's Recall, which is my favorite, but I do tend to use it the least, which is where you can shoot it onto an object and it will reverse its trajectory, which this is really awesome, especially when you find these rocks that fall from the sky temples above. You can actually jump on top of them and then reverse their trajectory and go all the way back up into the sky temples. Is like absolutely amazing. Then there's the auto builder, which is absolutely amazing, which essentially is the most OP thing I've ever seen. I mean, it literally saves all of your builds that you've done throughout the game. You can favorite them and you can add on top of them, and it's so freaking crazy. I mean, not only does it remember all of your builds, but you can actually create them using the game's Zonai currency. I mean, when I found out this ability, which by the way, this ability you get last in the game, but man, is it an absolute crazy addition. And it actually was in an optional section in the Deep, which I honestly don't know how anyone can play the game without this. You know, there's a lot of little hidden things around the game that make me say that. Like, I'll be playing the game and then I'll find something and I'll be like, whoa, man, I just kind of stumbled upon this like randomly. Like, how is it that like you can just stumble upon these things that are like very, very integral and make the game so much easier, but they can be so difficult to find? And it's not even like they tell you these things, like they tell you where these things are. Anyways, let's talk about the map. The map is absolutely amazing. I mean, they just took Breath of the Wild and made it like so much bigger. The game has so much verticality, it literally blows my mind. I mean, you can go way up above into the clouds and chill out on a sky temple. You can skydive back down to the ground, or you can jump through a hole in the ground and travel into the depths where the monsters have been festering for eons, and they've only grown stronger. The depths is just so amazing. It is literally the hard mode of the game. Like, everything down there is pitch black, and you have to be super careful because if the enemies hit you, then your health will go down permanently until you either return back to the surface or cleanse an area with light. And then I just absolutely love the concept of this game as a whole. Like, it is just absolutely amazing. Nintendo has just made another amazing game. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, okay? There's a few points I gotta deduct from it here and there. First off, English dubs, absolutely terrible. Just throw them out altogether, okay? Just turn it to Japanese because you're gonna be reading about 95% of the time anyways. So you might as well just have an actual nice sounding dialogue to begin with. I don't know what it is, but something about the dialogue just really rubs me the wrong way. Like everybody just sounds like they're putting their best foot forward in reading it, but they do just, I don't know, it just sounds like they're still just reading it off of a script. Like they're not actually fully emoting or getting into the character or the situation. They're just like a little bit separated, at least some of them, especially Zelda's voice actress.
You had said that you needed to return to your era as soon as you possibly could.
Yes. In my time, something terrible is happening. I need to get back there. But how do I do that?
But it's really no big deal, because, I mean, you're really not going to be listening to the voice actors all that much. Another con, frame rate issues, okay? I noticed them a lot in the first 10 hours of the game, most prevalently when I was in the Sky Temple doing the tutorial. I don't know why, but for some reason, it was just dropping frames like absolute crazy. I don't know what was going on. But then after I got out of the tutorial section, I actually rarely saw them, which was really cool. And yeah, that's about it for the cons. I mean, there might be some other sort of nitpicky things I might say here or there, like, oh, it holds your hand a little too much, which I mean, it kind of does sometimes. There's been a handful of times where even though I denied the request for them to give me more information, they'll give it to me anyways. Like, for instance, there was this fairy that was up on the top of the hill and it wouldn't come out, and it wanted some violin music to be played. So I went all the way back down and started talking to this big bird asshole, and he starts saying about, oh, well, there's a great big fairy at the top of the hill. Do you want to learn more about it? And I'm like, no, because I was just there, you dickweed. And he's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to tell you about it anyways. And it's like, dude, chill your roll. Like, I don't, like, it's just crazy. Even though you reject the extra explanation, sometimes they'll actually still do it anyways. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, all in all, this game is just amazing. I mean, I'm just going to say right out of the bat, 9 out of 10, possibly 10 out of 10 type category. I mean, if there was any game in the past like 3 years that I've played that is actually 10 out of 10 worthy, it would probably be this game. But I would be very comfortable saying it's a 9 out of 10, respectively. And to be completely honest, I'm gonna go play some more Breath of the Wild now, because it's just honestly a super fun game to play. Thank you all for listening to my review. I had a little bit of a head cold this week, so instead of missing out on the recording, I just decided to power through it anyways. So thank you if you've noticed that my voice isn't really necessarily the same. Anyways, I've been thinking about some future reviews. I was thinking about maybe covering Alan Wake before that game actually Thanos snaps off of PlayStation Plus, or maybe I can record the review and then release it around October. Or I was also thinking about doing a Dishonored retrospective, one of my old-fashioned deep dive 2-hour long video type things. But yeah, I'm just thinking about it right now. So if you guys want to discuss about that, put it in the comments below. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to the video for this long. Please, if you would, subscribe, comment, like, share, all that good stuff. And if someone in the comments could please describe to me why the fuck everybody is thirsting over rehydrated Ganon? Like, yeah, I get it. He's got some big muscles, but like, fuck, man, just chill the fuck out. All right, that's the end of the video. I'm out of here.